Alright, now chapter 13 talks about Abram and Lot separate. It says, So Abram went up from Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the Negev, or southern Israel today. Now Abram was very rich in livestock, and silver, and gold, and he journeyed on from the Negev, or southern Israel, as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place where he had made an altar at the first. And there Abram called upon the name of the Lord, and Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them dwelling together, for their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen. Strife meaning there was like aggravation, and there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdmen of Lot's livestock. At that time the Canaanites, or basically the paganists, the Satanists, and the Pezerites, who are the same people, were dwelling in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, Let there be no strife between you and me, and between your husband and my husband, for we are kinsmen, meaning that they're related, of course. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go to the right, or to the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, in the direction of Zor. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, of course. It says, So Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. That would be towards Jordan today. Thus they separated from each other. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, which is Israel, while Lot settled among the cities of the valley and moved his tent as far as Sodom, which is around the Sodom was, of course, where the Dead Sea is today, which is right on the Israel-Jordan border. Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord, because they were homosexuals, and they were in homosexual activity, hence why God destroyed them. And also with Gomorrah also. The Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land that you see I will give to you and to your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring also can be counted. Arise, walk through the length and the breadth of the land, for I will give it to you. So Abram moved his tent and came and settled by the oaks of Mamre, which are at Hebron, which is in the west bank today, Palestinians. And there he built an altar to the Lord. So basically, this is just basically what I just told you about people with Sodom, the homosexuals God destroyed because of their homosexual activity. God's going to destroy, and you just watch this whole homosexual bill. It's going to pass because it's going to happen, because we live in New Babylon, America. So it's going to happen, and once that does happen, once the Supreme Court does pass it, I mean, God's going to destroy America for his sins and for Antichrist Obama turning on Israel whenever they attack Iran and all other. It's just going to be, America's going to be destroyed because of it. So Revelation 18 talks about it. So anyway, all I can say is you better be ready, for all hate to break loose. But anyway, but like I said, God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because of their homosexual activity, and God's going to destroy New Babylon, America, for that also, for their sins, and for Antichrist turning his back on Israel, which is and America's destroyed because of it, which is Revelation 18. So yeah, and it also talks about this is where Abraham and Lot started to settle. They started, of course, to settle down to the land. Abraham settles down into Israel. Lot goes over to the Dead Sea, which is around the Jordan-Israel border today. A lot of people believe that the Dead Sea is where Sodom and Gomorrah used to be. So it makes a lot of sense. Of course, it talks about the Garden of the Lord, talking about the Garden of Eden. So anyway, this is what it's talking about in chapter 13. Chapter 14 is next. Talks about Abram rescues Lot. So right back with chapter 14.